It should have been the coronation of a dominant champion, Tom Aspinall defending his heavyweight title against Ciryl Gane in Abu Dhabi. But seconds into the fight, the unexpected happened. A double eye poke. The bout ends in no contest, and a storm ignites. Why did the fight stop? Why is the division stalled? Tonight we dig into the fight, the fallout, and the real fight nobody saw coming. To understand what that no contest really means to the UFC and both fighters, we have to analyze it from the roots. All week, the tone felt electric. Tom Aspinall arrived in Abu Dhabi carrying the weight of expectation, the British champion known for violent efficiency and first-round chaos. His rise had been meteoric, demolishing Sergey Pavlovich in 69 seconds, stopping Curtis Blades in barely a minute, and being crowned undisputed king after John Jones's retirement. But tonight was about legitimacy, proving he wasn't just the man who inherited the throne, but one who could defend it. Across from him stood Ciryl Gane, the smooth-moving Frenchman who'd spent 2 years chasing redemption. Twice before, gold had slipped through his hands, first to Ngannou's wrestling, then to Jones's grappling. But this time, he promised calm precision. He trained to drag Aspinall into deep waters, to turn chaos into chess. The UFC billed it as the perfect stylistic clash, the unpredictable powerhouse versus the elegant technician. Fans expected violence. The commentators called it a heavyweight masterclass waiting to happen. But as the cage door locked, no one knew that in just a few minutes, everything they'd prepared for, months of promotion, training, anticipation, would vanish in a blink. From the first bell, Aspinall came out exactly as advertised. Aggressive, confident, sprinting to the center and throwing combinations with heat. His jab popped, his right hand whistled through the air, and the crowd roared. Yet Gane didn't fold. He pivoted, circled, and fired back with crisp jabs that landed flush. Within the first minute, he'd already found range. Gane's composure was striking. He slipped punches, countered cleanly, and started to take command of the center, something few fighters had ever done to Aspinall. Each time Tom tried to cut off the cage, Gane danced out, firing low kicks and that snapping left jab that drew blood under the champion's eye. The challenger wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. Aspinall tried to change gears, dropping levels for a takedown, but Gane's defense was airtight. The two briefly clinched, then separated, trading feints and low kicks. The round was shaping up to be tactical, balanced, and surprisingly competitive. With 45 seconds left, Gane's accuracy was telling. He was outlanding the champ, staying calm under fire. Then it happened. Gane extended his lead hand to measure distance, and both fingers made contact with Aspinall's right eye. Not one, but two. The champion recoiled instantly, covering his face and stumbling backward. The referee stopped the action, and the arena went silent. At first, it looked minor. Eye pokes happen all the time. The ref gave Gane a warning and called for the doctor. Aspinall blinked rapidly, his expression shifting from annoyance to panic. He said he couldn't see. The doctor gave him the full 5 minutes allowed for recovery. Fans chanted encouragement, hoping he'd shake it off. But as seconds turned to minutes, the tension grew heavier. Aspinall tried opening his eye, only to wince. He told the referee he was seeing flashes, not shapes. The doctor asked if he could continue. He shook his head. That was it. The official waved his arms. No contest. Round 1, 3:14 remaining. The arena froze. A few boos scattered from the stands, more out of heartbreak than anger. Gane raised his gloves for a moment, then lowered them, realizing celebration would feel wrong. The commentary table sat stunned. "You hate to see this," one analyst muttered. "Both men trained for months, and it ends like this." Aspinall sat on his stool, head down, eyes closed. Gane walked over, placed a hand on his shoulder, and whispered something inaudible. No animosity, no blame, just two world-class athletes caught in the cruel lottery of combat sports. The crowd eventually applauded, not the ending, but the humanity, because this wasn't triumph or defeat. It was a reminder that in this sport, glory can vanish in a heartbeat, sometimes literally in the blink of an eye. The sound inside the Etihad Arena didn't feel like a sporting event anymore. It felt like disbelief. The crowd that had been roaring seconds earlier was now eerily quiet, watching Tom Aspinall squint through swelling and blinking tears. The cage-side doctor held up fingers, asked him to count. Aspinall couldn't. Ciryl Gane stood on the opposite side of the octagon, hands on his hips, staring at the floor. Commentators' voices softened. "This isn't how anyone wanted this to end," one said. and that line captured everything. There was no villain, no drama, just an accident that erased months of preparation in one motion. Replays played on the big screen. Every time the crowd saw Gane's outstretched hand make contact, a collective wince rippled through the seats. After the referee's final call of no contest, the formality of announcing it felt almost cruel. The ring announcer's voice echoed across the hushed arena. "This bout has been declared a no contest due to an accidental eye poke." A smattering of applause followed, more out of respect than satisfaction. Gane walked toward Aspinall, who was sitting on his stool with an ice pack pressed against his face. The challenger leaned down, spoke softly, and patted his shoulder before stepping away. Cameras caught Aspinall nodding, still unable to open his eye. Two professionals, neither at fault, both victims of chance. No one in that arena felt like they'd seen a fight, only a pause in one. Back at the commentary desk, the tone was somber. Analysts tried to unpack what had just happened, but there wasn't much to analyze. One of them sighed, "That's the cruel part of mixed martial arts. You can prepare for everything except an accident." Clips of the eye poke replayed again and again, each slow-motion frame dissected like evidence in a trial. On social media, confusion turned to sympathy. Fighters watching from home began posting almost immediately. "Heartbreaking," wrote Leon Edwards. "You train your life for this, and it ends on a foul." Every reaction mirrored the same mix of disappointment and understanding. The official statistics appeared on screen. Under 3 minutes of fight time, 18 significant strikes for Gane, 9 for Aspinall. The numbers meant nothing. The story was already written, not in data, but in silence. Even the usually unflappable commentary team sounded emotional. "We wanted answers about the heavyweight division tonight," one said. "Instead, we got another question mark." They praised both men for composure, noted Gane's sharpness early and Aspinall's willingness to engage immediately. But the discussion always circled back to the same point: unfinished business, in the worst way possible. When the camera cut back to the cage, Aspinall was being led out by doctors, one arm draped around a medic's shoulder. He raised his free hand briefly to the crowd. The audience responded with applause, an acknowledgement that even without a finish, they'd witnessed the raw unpredictability that defines combat sport. As the lights dimmed, the energy in the building felt drained. Fans stayed in their seats, talking quietly, scrolling through phones, showing each other the replay. The air of celebration had vanished. Even casual spectators understood they'd seen something rare, not a brawl, but a breakdown of fate itself. Aspinall was taken backstage for medical checks. Ringside reporters confirmed he told officials he couldn't see out of the right eye. His coach shook his head, repeating he wanted to keep going, but the doctor made the call. Gane passed by the broadcast area moments later, avoiding cameras, expression blank. No celebration, no interview, just a disappointed walk down the tunnel. Inside the octagon, the canvas still glistened under the lights, empty except for the referee speaking quietly to his assistants. The replay monitor looped the same 5 seconds: jab, feint, hand outstretched, and the unintentional double poke. Each viewing made it harder to watch. For the UFC staff, it was damage control. For the fans, heartbreak. And for both fighters, it was that strange kind of pain only athletes know, when you train for violence and lose to circumstance instead. Tonight was supposed to answer the heavyweight question. Instead, it reminded everyone that even in the most disciplined sport on earth, one misplaced moment can unravel everything. Backstage, the UFC cameras followed the slow, uneasy shuffle of both fighters. Tom Aspinall sat on a folding chair with an ice pack pressed against his eye, still blinking through pain. Around him, his team whispered, "Doctors shone lights," and cutmen moved carefully, avoiding flashes for the cameras. The hum of the arena outside faded under the quiet tension inside the locker room. Across the hall, Ciryl Gane removed his gloves and wrapped his hands in a towel. His coach murmured in French, "C'est le sport. Accidents arrive." The words hung in the air. This is the sport. Accidents happen. But Gane didn't nod. He looked toward the floor, shoulders slumped, replaying the moment in his mind. He knew it wasn't his fault, but it still felt wrong. Reporters hovered outside both doors, unsure who to approach first. Every few minutes, someone stepped out to give a brief update. Aspinall being evaluated, Gane waiting for clearance. No one smiled, no one celebrated. Just professionals dealing with an outcome that had no winner and no closure. Through the backstage corridors, fighters passed by, nodding silently. Heavyweights, lightweights, rookies, veterans, it didn't matter. They all recognized the nightmare of training for war, only only to be robbed by a freak accident. In that shared silence, the reality of combat sports felt heavier than ever. When the broadcast returned from commercial, the tone had shifted completely. The highlight package that was supposed to show knockouts and celebrations instead played in slow motion. The opening exchanges, Gane's footwork, Aspinall's pressure, then the accidental poke that ended it all. Commentators spoke softly over the footage. "These are the moments that remind you why fighters deserve respect," one said. Another added, "People see violence, but they forget the cost. Physical, emotional, professional." This is the other side of glory. Crowd shots told their own story. Disappointed fans applauding politely. A few standing near the exit still shaking their heads. The camera lingered on Aspinall's corner, where his father and coach packed up gear quietly. They'd prepared for a defining night. Months of sparring, game plans, nutrition, endless repetition, all ending in under 4 minutes with no conclusion. The production crew zoomed in on Gane leaving the cage, hands on his hips, his face a picture of frustration and empathy. No victory pose, no trash talk, no highlight reel to post on social media. Just two athletes whose skill and preparation had been swallowed by chance. As the credits prepared to roll, the lead commentator summed it up in one line: "In fighting, you can plan everything except the moment it all stops." As the event wound down, the hallway outside the locker rooms turned into a procession of quiet respect. Fans who had paid thousands for tickets waited by the barricades, still holding flags and posters. When Aspinall finally appeared, escorted by officials, one side of the crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in support. Phones lifted. The champion raised one hand, nodded, and disappeared into the tunnel, his face half hidden behind a towel. Minutes later, Ciryl Gane walked the same path, eyes down, flanked by his team. Some fans clapped, some shouted his name. He stopped once, pressed his hand to his chest and mouthed, "Merci." No villain, no drama, just mutual respect in defeat and disappointment alike. The cameras followed the procession until the lights dimmed and the octagon stood empty again, gleaming under the spotlights. The cage door swung open one last time as a janitor stepped inside to clean the canvas. It was symbolic, wiping away the traces of a fight that never really happened. Up in the rafters, the last chant of the night echoed faintly, "Du Bronx, Du Bronx," left over from earlier fans mixing cards, a reminder that the night itself had been full of chaos and emotion. But when those voices faded, all that remained was silence, heavy and human.